elevated.
Well, I get paid in mine, I don't understand that.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm Greg, Greg Campbell.
Okay, gentlemen. I call this meeting of the San Diego SAR Chapters, Sons of the American Revolution to order. Would you please stand for the invocation? Since Reverend Malone is with us today, I will lead the invocation. Almighty God, we ask your blessings on this chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, as our purpose is to promote sound learning and true patriotism to further all that is good in our community. So we pray that your will strengthen our hands in all that we undertake, that we may serve our nation to your honor and glory. Amen. Color Guard, would you please present and post the colors?
Color Guard, attention. Color Guard, mark time. Color Guard, forward, march. Left face. Face from right face. Front face. Color Guard. Present the colors.
Mrs. Cahoon,
Yes,
would you please lead us in the national anthem?
yes, please join me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam? His broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Color Guard, one step forward. Color Guard about face.
Hold on. Face again. Pledge of allegiance.
About face again.
Compatriot Eli, would you please lead us in Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color Guard about face. Color Guard pulls the colors.
Ready, two,
One step back.
right, face,
Move the colors.
forward, watch,
One face.
forward,
About time. Forward.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Before we get started, I would like to formally introduce Mrs. Holly Jo, who is the area chapter of the SAR Chapter. Order. Okay. All right, let's see here. So what we started this year is doing a little history lesson based on the month that we're doing. It's been pretty well received as we've done it through Zoom. So we're going to try it live today too. So in the month of August, in the dog days of August, on the 2nd in 1776, 56 congressional delegates in total signed the document, signed the Declaration of Independence document, including some who were not present at the vote approving the declaration. The delegates signed by state from north to south, beginning with Josiah Bartlett of New Hampshire and ending with George Walton of Georgia. On the 4th, in 1753, George Washington, then a young Virginia planter, became a master mason. It's the highest basic rank in the secret fraternity of Freemasonry. The ceremony was held at Masonic Lodge number 4 in Fredericksburg. It's a point to note because Washington was 21 years old at the time and would soon command his first military operation as a major in the Virginia Colonial Militia. Okay, all right, on the 6th in 1787, delegates to the Constitutional Convention began debating the first complete draft of the proposed Constitution of the United States. The Articles of Confederation, ratified several months before the British surrender at Yorktown in 1781, provided a loose confederation of U.S. states. On paper, Congress, the central authority, had the power to govern foreign affairs, conduct war, and regulate currency. But in practice, those powers were sharply limited because Congress was not given the authority to enforce any of those requests. That's why we have a Constitution. On the 7th, in 1782, in Newburgh, New York, General George Washington, then the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, created the Badge for Merit. Washington's Purple Heart was awarded to only 3 soldiers during the Revolutionary War: Elijah Churchill, William Brown, and Daniel Bissell Jr. The badge was presented to soldiers for any singular meritorious action that permitted its wearer to pass guards and sentinels without challenge. We can do that today, but we could. On the 15th, American Lieutenant Colonel Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox, and his irregular cavalry force of 250 routed a party of loyalists commanded by Major Micaiah Gainey at Ports Ferry, South Carolina. Meanwhile, on that same day, General Horatio Gates' men consumed half-baked bread, which sickened them overnight and contributed to their disastrous performance the next day at Camden. And on the 16th, despite the fact that these men had suffered diarrhea from the night before, General Gates chose to engage the British on the morning of the 16th. Although the Continentals outnumbered the British 2-1, the encounter was a disaster. Gates seriously overestimated the number of soldiers he had available for combat. On the 18th, George Washington attempted to fuse, Tensions between England and the United States had risen to renewed heights since the end of the Revolutionary War in 1795. The US government objected to English military posts along America's northern and western borders and British violation of America's neutrality in 1794. The Royal Navy seized American ships in the West Indies during England's war with France in 1795. Sorry, I missed that one, I guess. Okay, on the 2nd, in 1776, the British arrived at Long Island between Gravesend and New Utrecht with near 24,000 men ready to land in the moment, according to one observer. General Williams had a large army came to Long Island hoping to capture New York City and gain control of the Hudson River Valley, a victory that would divide the rebellious colonies in half. However, Howe chose not to follow the advice of his subordinates and did not storm the Patriot redoubts at Brooklyn Heights, where he could have taken the Patriots' military leadership prisoner and ended the rebellion right then and there. On the 23rd, 4 counties in western North Carolina declared their independence as the state of Franklin. Counties lay in what would eventually become Tennessee. The previous April, North Carolina had ceded its western land claims between the Allegheny Mountains and the Mississippi River to the United States Congress. The settlers of the area, known as the Cumberland River Valley, had formed their own independent government from 1772 to 1777, and was concerned that Congress would sell the territory to Spain or France as a means of paying off the government's war debt. In a letter, Virginia Governor Henry Lee, Washington declared that he had no choice but to act to subdue the insurgents, fearing they would otherwise shake the government to its foundation. The Whiskey Rebellion of August 1794 was a product of growing discontent, which had been expressed as early as 1791. The grain farmers who resented the federal tax imposed on their distillery products threatened violence. Washington noticed that the general populace, however, considered their actions as an insurrection with universal indignation and abhorrence. And on the 30th, in 1776, having been humiliated in the defeat at the Battle of Brooklyn Heights, on August 27th, Washington gave these reasons for his decision to retreat. 1, the need to reunite his forces. 2, the extreme fatigue of his soldiers, and 3, the lack of proper shelter from the weather. General Howe had attempted to reconcile with the Patriots before blood was spilled, but had been rejected by Washington because General Howe had failed to use Washington's title as general when addressing it in the letter. Even after the beating, the Continentals of Brooklyn Heights, Howe looked for a peaceful resolution. That is our history lesson for the day. And normally we have a speaker, but unfortunately late last night, I got a message that our speaker was unable to attend. So we're going to have a short-term meeting. I apologize. But before we do that, before we have our meals, that are being ordered now, we're starting something a little new. Everybody was given a ticket when you came in. You already see one? Yeah. Bill, do you have the
I'm doing it right now.
doing it right now? Okay, good. So this week we have, or this month I should say, we have a book, the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of California, California Sesquicentennial, which is 150 years, 1849 to 1990. What's number 1? Number 2, I love Paul Revere, whether he wrote or not, or Richard Shea. And book number 3, Washington's Crossing, from David Hackett Fisher. So. Okay, good.
Eight three one 6092. That's the wrong number.
What was that number again?
831-6092.
All right.
Yay.
Thank you for your help. Congratulations. Now, we expect to have a book report on that next month. Okay. Next one, please. And if you pick your own.
831-6077.
First on the list. That's fine.
1776.
Sorry, thanks.
All right. So your book is one that we do, and okay. Washington's Crossing. One more.
I haven't met very many native San Diegans. San Diego.
862.
I've been here since 1970.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you all. Folks on the on our Zoom broadcast, we're going to take a break here for a minute to get some breakfast, and we should come back probably around 10 minutes to 10 if you'd like to take a break and get some coffee for yourselves.
How's everybody doing?
Sorry?
Nothing, Barry. I was just going to talk to the rest of the group.
Okay, great. Yeah, help yourself. I'm going to mute our line.
Okay.
I think I'm going to.
Yeah, Barry, I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
And that is, can the people see who's on the Zoom call? The reason I ask is that for the Society of Cincinnati, when we have meetings in DC, a lot of people can't make it. And it would be good for those who can to see those who are on the Zoom.
Under normal circumstances, yes, they would. Unfortunately, the venue we have today is new to us, and they didn't have a projection screen, so we can't show it to everyone. You're showing on my PC.
Okay, great.
But next time, absolutely, we'll have it up on a big screen, and everybody can see everybody.
Fantastic.
Okay. I'll mute you so you guys can talk.
So how is everybody doing? It's been ages.
I'm fine. This is Dick.
Hey, George.
Hey, guys. All good here, except we seem to see a number of people we know, relatives and friends who are coming down with COVID thanks to the Delta variant, and every one of them has been vaccinated. So they're mild cases, but it's still spreading and unrelenting, pandemic.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Are they giving them any treatment, any medication for the COVID?
Well, my brother-in-law, I think, was pretty sick, but and I'm not sure what he got. He's out in Wisconsin. My oldest daughter has come into contact with her at her workplace. Someone came down with it, and so she's got to go get tested. She doesn't know if she has it or not. But what a pain in the butt to try to get to a testing place. And, how do you get there? Who takes you there? There are all those kind of issues. So hopefully she doesn't have it, but, otherwise she's off work for 2 weeks, which is a big pain. So I don't know.
Also financially an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was, a week before last, I was at a coin convention in Chicago and got back on last Tuesday, week ago Tuesday. And the day after, I get an email saying that a whole bunch of vendors, exhibitors or a number of exhibitors had tested positive. So what I did was I called up CVS. I could do basically be seen the same day. I couldn't do it at CVS, but some other places, Med Hero, but it was like 170 or 190 bucks. So I opted to do the next available at CVS, which was Monday, and went in for the quick test and tested negative. Now I have a friend who was exposed and wasn't allowed to come back to work without a test. It was a school. So they went in and got the test and paid 50 bucks for it at Med Hero. And then took it in and they said, oh, you need the different test. They didn't tell them which test was needed. So they have to go back and get the other test. I guess there's two different kinds of tests. But yeah, this is of concern to me because we're scheduled for an October cruise on the Danube from Germany to Budapest. And of course, we'll have to be tested a couple of days before we go. But yeah, the Delta variant is concerning.
Do you have a trip insurance that'll, if you go fly over there and you test positive and they won't let you on the boat?
I think Viking has a deal. We're doing a Viking river cruise where, you know, you can cancel because of if you come down with it beforehand. But yeah, we do want to get trip insurance. We bought trip insurance, a year's trip insurance in January of 2019. And of course, that was, you know, we had one trip to New York and that was it. So we probably want to renew that. And I'm sure they're going to have a coronavirus exclusion or a ton of money.
Yeah. And you want to probably have insurance that'll allow you to be taken back to the US
Yeah,
for treatment rather than having to stay there.
yeah,
But,
yeah. That was part of the one we had. I'll have to look into that. I will
Yeah.
say my younger son and his wife are both RNs. He's a trauma nurse at Mercy and she's a floor nurse at Encinitas Scripps, and they're just getting slammed. I mean, and it's taking an emotional toll on her because normally, you know, you tend to bond with your patients to a degree, and she says she just can't do that. It's just getting too painful.
Are they finding most of their cases are unvaccinated patients?
I haven't had a chance to talk about that, but I know at the national level, it's like over 90%.
Yeah.
And I've worked on drug development, so I know the efficacy of properly validated drugs, and they're incredibly good. And the vaccines for coronavirus really do work. And you know, for the people who say, well, I don't want to be a guinea pig. Well, the guinea pigs were the first 40,000 people that were tested. We're no longer in the guinea pig category. So when
I
somebody,
just don't understand why people don't get vaccinated.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of information out there, and the unfortunately, the internet is not what in the scientific community we call peer reviewed, because any idiot can put anything out there, and there's some truly stupid things on there. You know, well, it was designed to kill off and insert your favorite ethnic group there, or political group there, and people believe it.
Yeah, I think social media is just the reverse of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to call it anti-social media now.
Boy, isn't
like
that the
that.
truth?
Yeah.
Those of us that were involved in developing all this crap for over a long time are really feeling pretty bad about the way it's being used. I'll tell you that.
It's shows the dark side of human nature, I'm afraid.
It sure does.
I mean, I'm a strong advocate. I have a journalism background and a master's in communication. So I'm almost a absolutist on sort of Hugo Black absolutist on First Amendment rights. So it's really a tough thing to see what's happened with certain networks and also social media. I have a hard time justifying, a complete and unfettered marketplace of ideas when there's so many stupid ideas out there. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't want to go to regulation like China's doing and the big crackdown now on their social media, but man, it's a tough dilemma.
I was
Well
sitting in
said.
my office with a bunch of people in Xerox back in the late 80s when the internet was open to the public. And I remember sitting there and said, this is going to be just like CB radio. Well, it's worse, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I
Not
see
that it
Barry.
hasn't done a lot of good, but
Yeah.
there's the good and the bad.
I mean, the connections. I mean, I recently met up with a friend of mine from grade school, and we haven't seen each other in 40 years or more. And so that was because we reconnected on social media, and then made arrangements to meet up, and that was great. So I mean, the good things. There are a lot of good things in all this, but boy, it just the knuckle draggers take over, and it's a waste. It's a waste.
Yeah, actually, it's the artificial intelligence stuff that's been added in over the last, I don't know what the last period is, but that's one of the bigger problems is that artificial intelligence is pretty much just that, sometimes artificial, although, it definitely has useful benefits and useful capabilities, but it can be misused just as easily as it can be used for benefits.
Yeah, like all the robocalls and other things that we get. I mean, just within the social media, the algorithms and things that are, like they say, Russian hacking and things like that. But I think a lot of it's driven by the artificial intelligence stuff that they've built up and are sending out messages and picking up crazy stuff on the internet and going with it. So. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it will take Facebook and everybody else to crack down, but I don't know what the best way to do that is.
Well, I'm a member of Scripps, and Scripps had that ransomware attack about 4 or 5 months ago. And their staff was just going crazy, scheduling appointments. And it took them about 3 or 4 weeks to get it all squared away. They got their portal back up. And I don't know whether they ever paid any money.
Yes, they did.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, that's how they got it back up supposedly, is they paid the ransom.
That's a shame. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that the one way you stop that is, I don't know, maybe, you pass a law stating that all ransomware to be paid must come out of the personal salary of the senior executives. Then you're going to see security. When the CEO has skin in the game and it's going to wipe out his mansion, he's going to have to sell his mansion because somebody was lax on their security. I mean, I've lived in, let's say, an interesting environment where you did not hook up to the internet anything that you wanted that was really important. And you used fairly strong passwords. That will work quite well. You always hear about people busting into like Los Alamos and places like that. They're breaking into the unsecured sites. Although there was one where you had an employee who was putting data on way back when floppy disks and taking the floppy disks out, and eventually got caught doing that. Personal security is hard to do, but if you force everybody to change their passwords at a corporate level every 3 months, which is when I was doing work for the Navy, you had to do, and that works a lot better. And it's kind of like voting in Chicago, back up early and often.
Well,
I'm old enough to remember floppy disks.
at my work, they've disabled all the USB ports on laptops, so you cannot write a file out of your computer to a USB port.
Hmm.
They did that
That's
several
very
years
smart.
ago, because they did have, I think, employees dumping data to USB drives, which nowadays hold a vast amount of data.
I'll
So
say,
they disabled the ports. That's kind of a corporate policy.
that's very smart. What company?
Qualcomm.
Ooh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. The Chinese were stealing their modem information. They had employees that were insiders that were working for the Chinese.
Ooh,
Back in the
That's
early
awful.
90s, we were working in DC, in the DC area, actually, on what they call 50S, which is military documentation. But we had a security consultant on the team, and he said that this is in Washington area. He said he could walk into just about anybody's office in the area and within about 10 minutes figure out their password and get into their computer. So that kind of gives you a clue as to how lax people are in their password situation. That was what, the 90s, whatever that was, 30 years ago.
Yeah, I saw an interesting thing that you can make pretty much an uncrackable password by just having a phrase like, this is the time for all good men. So it's incredibly long. You can remember it very easy, and then you stick somewhere in there a random number or symbol. But if you've got like a 20-character password, unless someone knows that phrase, it's not going to be cracked easily. Whereas something
Well,
like
I'll tell you when
8 characters could.
When you get to be my age, though, what you really need to have is a password manager so that you can remember the darn things.
Yeah.
That's the problem. There's too many places you need a password for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
the
then
other thing, the other thing I heard is that if you are asked security questions, you lie. You don't give out any information that's actually true. You just have to remember your lies. That way, if people are digging around into your Facebook page or wherever and can uncover different factoids of your life, none of it will be useful for security questions.
Yep.
So lie low and lie often. That's my my motto.
Very good. And that's from an attorney too, by the way.
That's right. So I see on Barry's screen, I don't know if you can all see his screen, but the battery's running low.
Yeah.
So this may end soon. I sent him an email. I don't know if he's looking at emails, but if anybody has his text, maybe text him. But
I might do that.
yeah, I didn't have his text, so I just sent him that email, which is probably on his laptop. So
Yeah, I
a lot of
don't have
good
his
bad
phone
things.
number, so.
Yeah, I don't either.
I do.
So how many people have are there in person? Did Barry say? Oh, Barry just looked. There it goes.
Oh.
He plugged it in.
Looks like it.
Good.
Another technical issue resolved.
Well, we're useful, I guess, on the Zoom. So what would you say? Are there a dozen people there?
Hard to say.
They're all spread out. Yeah, I mean, I was saying after, I mean, my daughter was potentially exposed, but a friend of mine who has been so careful, you know, even the first vaccinated people that I know, and grows his own food, you know, rarely goes out. So he went to an IMAX and all masked up at Balboa, and then tested positive after that. So people, you know, come in and take their masks off, and eat and drink and watch the IMAX, and it's just unfiltered, probably not very well filtered air. So you know, you just can't let your guard down.
Proves that masks don't work
Well,
for a
doesn't-
virus.
Yeah, it doesn't stop it. I think it reduces it. I mean, I think if everybody were masked, I don't think he would have gotten it.
think
Well,
you're right.
if you want to breathe your own excrement, rebreathe it back in out of the mask, that's fine.
Yep, that's what I'm willing to do, because I believe that it reduces the risk. And if everyone did that, I think that we'd have this better under better control.
My daughter's an MD and works right next to Scripps, actually, in the Zymed building, but their cardiology group. And she decided that anybody that comes in without a mask or refuses to put one on, said, sorry, we'll treat you some other time. They're actually refusing. And people are lying about being vaccinated, they found out, which is a different problem.
Yeah. Again, the dark side of human nature.
Yeah.
Oh, there's also cases of people getting fake ID, fake vaccination cards.
Yeah. It's just, you know,
Luckily I was going to say, luckily down there, they've got access to the Scripps portal and they can check people that way, but you know, that's limited.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was on the floor when the ransomware hit, and she said it was kind of mild chaos. They had a patient come from surgery, and she was a post-surgery ward, and the only way and unfortunately, all the orders were electronic, and she actually was able to track down the surgeon at home and get orders from him to properly manage the patient. But yeah, it was not a lot of fun, according to my daughter-in-law, for like a couple of weeks. And they basically just, unless it was critical, they weren't letting people in many cases. You know, anything elective was pretty much postponed.
Yeah. Yeah, there was an article in the paper today about that again, they're reducing the number of elective procedures because of the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that a lot of the people are getting really stressed out.
You mean in the hospital settings or just generally?
I think anybody in the medical field is getting really stressed.
Yeah.
They're being stretched very thin.
And I think there's a COVID fatigue too. I mean, I think I talked to many people who just say they're so over it, but you know, this is, I keep saying this isn't forever. You know, we just got to get through it. We have to be smart about how we approach this pandemic and get to the other side. But
Well, I think there are too many people that don't believe that.
Yeah.
They believe it's going to be forever. It'll be interesting to see how the recall election goes.
It's screwy the way it's set up. So can't believe we have
Yeah.
45, I don't know how many people on the other side of the ballot, most of whom are crazy. And I don't know. I don't think it's a great process. I didn't think it was the last time around either, but
Well, my
At
wife
least
and
we only
I,
have one porn star to vote for this time.
yeah,
Yeah.
as far
I
as we
think it's a
know.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, how do you know this?
Well, I read my ballot, and apparently there's some, they showed the picture of it, and she looks like one, single name, and accomplished politician was her platform. Accomplished in something, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
my
You never
wife and
know.
I actually met Bruce Jenner in San Francisco, of all places, and he gave a speech to an organization I was part of, and he just went on and on and on. So that was the first glimpse of him or her becoming a politician.
Yeah. Well, no comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best thing to do. No comment about a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, we were talking about First Amendment, the marketplace of ideas, and it used to be you could go out and say, oh, this is who I support. I understand the other side. We can agree to disagree. But now, especially on social media, you say anything and you get attacked, personally attacked. And it's nuts. And, being anonymous or being behind the screen, it's a lot easier than face to face. So I don't know. I don't think
Yeah,
anonymous
I
comments should be allowed, frankly.
I keep posting that there's one thing to think of. Freedom is not free. We pay for it one way or the other. And with freedom goes a concomitant responsibility to make sure everybody else has the same freedoms. And I think we've totally lost sight of that in our society for some reason or other. But when we teach kids in school these days, there's one of these things going around about what should they include in the high school curriculum. I think responsibility and freedoms are something that needs to be included again. And I don't know what's happening. Obviously, I haven't been at school for a few years, so but somehow or other, we're not teaching it.
Somewhere along the way, people have decided that they are free. Freedom means they can do whatever they want and damn the rest of society. And that's not how it works. We have a social contract. We have a social contract. I believe in that. I think we have responsibilities to our society as well as to each other. And just because I want to go do something doesn't mean I should, and who else is at harm? And I don't know, people have gotten very selfish and we have extremists on both sides, and it's nuts both ways, but we have to find some commonality again and some responsibility and get back to society protecting itself.
And each other.
Yeah. I'm going to move my
I
soapbox
completely
out.
agree, George.
It's nuts. Actually, listening to the evening news is really becoming more depressing than it is useful, I think, almost.
Amen.
I still get the paper, and so that I just spend my time with that. And I've stopped listening to network or cable news generally. Just
probably a good plan. Good plan.
Yeah, the 3-letter networks are not worth listening to. You got to go to a local station, 4-letter network.
Yeah, I really like, yeah, I like in the morning, I'll put on channel 8, CBS. I think that's, although it's 3 letters, but the local CBS station is good for local news, weather. I mean, that's all I need from them. And then the paper. And forget about like my news feeds on AOL or whatever. Ugh. Anyway,
Yeah, I
My
listen to
problem is, like-
KUSI for San Diego news.
Yeah. My problem is I can't stay awake long enough to read too much in the paper anymore.
hey, what did Barry say happened to the speaker today? They couldn't make it last minute.
I think he said he got an email late last night. And then I didn't hear what the backup plan was.
Yeah, I didn't hear the reason. I just heard that he canceled last minute last night.
Yeah.
I look at that room and I guess the layout there is pretty good, but Mayflower Society, for example, is planning a thing in the Balboa Park, but it's in the House of Nations or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
I've forgotten the name of the house, but I don't know. That's in October, I think, late October, and I think it's probably too early again. I think that's going to have to be canceled.
They're going to do it inside. They're not going to do it out in the central pond.
Yeah, same place that we're supposed to be meeting shortly. So this is not it, but House of, yeah, I can't remember what the name of it is. That's the other problem. Retrieval. It's all there. One of my biggest desires, actually, I've been thinking about it, but I, of course, will never do it, but is, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could take the images that are in our brains from our childhood even, and actually print them out on a local printer? There's got to be a way to do that. We seem to be able to get everything else out of the brain that we need. And we just haven't quite gotten to that one yet, but those images are in there in some form, and there's got to be a way to get them out again.
I'd say learn to be a good painter, but in my case, that's a talent I never inherited.
Yeah. And by the way, Larry, I haven't forgotten you. I still have your sheet here on the table, and I've been looking for stuff, and I need to talk to you probably for about 5 minutes. So sometime this weekend, is it okay if I give you a phone call?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anytime.
Thanks.
Yeah, I told you, no rush. I'm at your mercy here. I'm the beggar.
Yeah, well, I'm learning at the same time, which actually doesn't help things, but yeah, the question is, you got the name of a couple of people, and there's a father and son, the Andersons. And the question is, where do you join that line? There's a line down, and then there's you come up and join it somewhere. So I'm gonna figure that one out.
Well, like you just mentioned, I can't think of where I join it right now.
Okay, well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it now. I'll give you a call. Maybe we can
okay.
do something else. But
Yeah, I'll take a look at my tree and figure it out. I had that all figured out, like you said. Now all of a sudden I can't remember what it was.
yeah.
Yeah, mine, luckily, I've only found one person, and anybody would be, a direct ancestor of his. On a slightly different note, for those of you of Dutch ancestry, the Holland Society of New York has changed its membership requirements and no longer requires a direct descent with retaining the Dutch surname. So if you had a a Dutch ancestor prior to 1675. Yeah, 1675. Then with direct descent, you can now join the Holland Society, which I've done.
Hmm.
Anybody know how are we doing on membership? I missed the last board meeting, so I don't know the update, but
So what
I
was
have
the
no
question
clue.
again for George?
oh, the membership numbers, are we maintaining a good level?
Or you mean the number of members, not the
New
membership
members.
number?
New members
Yeah, right.
joining, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either.
Like, I don't know if we have any new, I don't think we have any new members today, do we?
I don't think so today. I think we had, what, 3 or so in this last month. I don't see anybody that would have that information on. I didn't take notes.
Yeah, I don't have the agenda. I don't know if there was an email with today's agenda on it.
Probably was. I just went through a resorting of my email and I can't find anything anymore.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Way too much email. Most of it's trash these days.
Yeah.
We don't even answer the phone around here. If they can't leave a message, they must not want us very much.
That's a good
Right.
plan.
Even my cell phone, almost every call I get on that thing says potential spam, so I ignore it. Treasures report.
Well, I still get a fair amount of real calls on my cell phone,
Yeah,
but certainly not on our landline.
I do too, but they're mostly from the TV stations. So something doesn't work, can you come fix it? No.
George, I'm really sorry to hear about the COVID impact on your family.
Yeah, it's like all of them in 1 week, it was like, boom. Just friends and relatives. Well, my daughter's going to CVS. Talk about CVS. So she did get an appointment today at CVS. And so if she gets tested and it's negative, I think she can go back to work. But she's in a work program because she's developmentally disabled. And so she relies on people driving her to the workplace. And it's the driver that got COVID and exposed everybody in that car. And so they all have to go scramble to get tested. And then if they're negative, then the workplace
Find a new
has to
driver.
provide a new driver. Yeah. At least
You
for
said
2
most
weeks.
of those cases were breakthrough cases in your family?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Homer.
Means they had the vaccination, but they still had some. I mean, they've been mild mostly, like a flu. But yeah, and
Well,
hopefully my daughter doesn't have it at all. But yeah, so far she's fine and no symptoms or anything.
Possibly the booster shot will help that situation a bit because it significantly boosts the antibody count once you've had it. One of
Yeah,
my granddaughters is a PhD in molecular biology, and it's exactly what she's working on is that type of stuff. But like nobody understands what she talks about. So her mother, who's a PhD, I mean, an MD, said, I don't understand what Heather's talking about most of the time. I said, where did you fail in school, Kathy?
I've heard, I heard a doctor on one of the radio, I think it was a PBS show, talk about how this booster could be, prevent you from needing another one for years. Maybe like some of the flu booster shots or other booster shots we get over the years. But I don't know that they'll know that. I mean, until it's, we're well into past the testing phase.
I think the answer to that whole situation, there's an awful lot of opinions out there, and there's a lot of information that we just don't have yet.
Yeah.
It takes time to gather that stuff, and people are way too anxious to get information or misinformation. I don't know which, but it just plain takes time. And it's amazing that they've gotten these vaccines in through the process and the time they have this time around. It's really quite amazing. So we need to give the scientists a real pat on the back for getting us through this mess. We're not done yet, but they're working on it, I guess.
Well,
I got my booster shot yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, I know a number of people have. And Bev and I need ours too, but we probably can wait another month.
Yeah, I'm immune deficient
hope.
and my grandbaby's immune deficient. So as soon as I was able to get it, I ran out and got one.
Yeah, right.
Kick my butt, my arm's sore. I don't feel good. I'm falling asleep.
Were you 8 months out? Are they holding to that, or are they giving it to the folks that need?
They look at that if you're 65 or older. They look at whether you're 8 months out or not. They're actually looking at 5 to 8 months. But if you're immune deficient, have something from your doctor, they're not worried about it. They'll give it to you right away.
Yeah, they're working around that. The official CDC documents say that the 6 months for immunosuppressed people, and then 8 months for those of us that are old. And
I spent 30 years in the Navy, and they always told me if it's free, take it. So when I heard it was free, I went and got it.
Just too many
I
gifts.
I got my booster shot on Tuesday. And I just signed something that said I was immune compromised, and they never checked. That was it.
Any reaction to the shot at all?
No, I just had soreness in my arm, my shoulder arm, where I got the shot injection. But I had no
that's
reaction.
Normal. Yeah.
I had no reaction to the first two that I got.
Yeah, the flu, I didn't either. And the flu shot will give you that same reaction sometimes too. So.
Yep, I agree.
Which is something else we need to be prepared for. We need to get our flu shots again.
Oh boy, that sure is coming up.
Yeah.
Interesting thing. The incidence of flu over the last year and a half has been significantly reduced, and they believe it's primarily to people wearing masks.
That makes sense.
The flu, say that again, the spread of the flu is.
Yeah. The incidence of influenza are significantly below what they were pre-COVID.
Oh, yeah. The masks are helping that.
Now, the other side of that I've heard is that for kids, they develop their immunities by getting things like the flu and working through it. And so they're not developing the immunities they would normally develop.
Yeah.
I don't know how scientific that is. I just heard that. Again, not by social media, but like reading an article in the paper about that.
No, but I think that's true. And matter of fact, The elephants have that situation. You ever watched what goes on with elephants and their babies? The babies come along and they actually eat up the mother's feces, and that is the way they develop gut immunities and so forth. So it's a strange world.
You're not suggesting that for humans, are you?
Other than as an epithet. Epithet.
Actually,
Nick,
there is a medical treatment for that if you have a sterile gut. They do a fecal enema to reestablish your biome. It turns out that your gut bacteria is about half your immune system.
Yeah.
And without it working properly, you get sick very quickly.
The probiotics, huh?
Yeah, it's a probiotic extreme. It's people that have gotten heavy duty antibiotic treatments for fighting off infections. They get so much it sterilizes their gut. And it's extremely rare, which is the good news.
Yeah.
But they have done treatments with it.
Interesting. We learn more and more all the time, don't we?
Yep, it's something new every day.
I noticed Dick had his foot up on the desk there. I was going to say, you got bug bites on your legs, Dick? Bev and I have a rash of bug bites for the last 2 weeks. I don't know why, but it's driving us both nuts.
Were you talking about me?
Yeah, I was talking about you, Dick, Richard, or Mr. Leslie.
I don't have my feet up on anything.
No, it looked like your leg was up in the air there for a moment, and it was reminding me of mine has been up in the air recently quite a few times trying to treat these silly bug bites, whether they're ant bites from the backyard or something else is going on, we don't know, but it's very annoying. Not serious, obviously, but
Yeah,
itchy.
annoying.
Well, they're certainly having a leisurely breakfast.
Yeah.
They're on their third cup of coffee, I think.
Either that or they forgot about us.
Either that or it's a really good and long breakfast.
Well, I looked at the menu and the food looked good. They had a good menu.
Yeah, Mimi's good.
One of the things I noticed on the SAR announcement of the upcoming meeting was, maybe it was this morning's meeting, that the announcement said that it was a buffet style breakfast, but a number of businesses like Soup Plantation and Sizzler and some of those have gone out of business because buffets are no longer permissible. So, but this doesn't look like a buffet style breakfast. It looks like it's a plated served breakfast.
Well, they're getting their doggy boxes, looks like. So,
Yeah, right. It's good enough to take home.
yeah. So is the officers club on base still closed, or what? How are they handling if we at Miramar?
I'm not an expert on that at all, but it seems to me they've opened up some areas, but I'm not sure whether it's procedural or whatever has complicated it enough that nobody's decided to go back there yet. Yeah, some of the military guys would probably give you a better idea on that.
Yeah.
We did that major remodel of the place last year. And I think it's been pretty much closed since due to COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I heard something about part of it opening. I'm not sure the whole thing is, but that's not official. It's a vague memory.
Yeah, I haven't received their monthly flyer on events or dinners or anything like that, so I'm assuming that they're closed up. Either that or they just canned me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that this program is good since we're all hanging around waiting for it.
We hope so. Find out what his apps are there. So,
Well, I'm gonna take a quick break here. So see you in a few minutes. I'm gonna go actually get
Okay.
something to eat. Sitting here talking about breakfast.
Yeah.
Make me hungry.
that's a good idea. I think I'll do the same thing. I'll be back shortly.
Me too.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we're going to start up in a minute.
Thomas?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful breakfast. We're going to see one of our little meeting today. Since you don't have to speak, we are going to be closing up. Together and going. So. All right, okay. Originally, we had Commander Richard Mudgett scheduled to be here today. Evidently, they couldn't make it. So hopefully they'll be here next time. He's going to receive a war medal service for his service in Korea and Vietnam. He was a U.S. Navy pilot. Okay, so I do have a few announcements to make. For those of you that use Amazon.com to purchase anything, if you sign up at Amazon.com, that's like Smile.com, which is the same as Amazon. What's the same? They will provide the Sons of the American Revolution San Diego chapter with a percentage of your purchase as a donation. Please, you shop at Amazon, shop at Amazon.com, and choose any of the chapter that you are designated for charity. Also, there is a bylaw change coming up for the state, and it is more or less to change some wording. They have to give 90-day notices. Been showing this for a couple meetings ago. So if you have any desire to see what the bylaw looks like, look at it, that's on our website. If you have any feedback, please let us know. Because we will be attending the subsequent meeting of the fall Board of Managers meeting to be held in Riverside this year to vote on it. And if you all want to attend that meeting, it's at the Michigan, which is a very nice, several times. So it goes. Okay. Also, before we close, this is from a calendar standpoint, obviously we've got that meeting. Our next meeting will be at the House of the USA in Balboa Park. It will be our Constitution Day event. It will be just us. The DER has chosen to do some different things based on COVID. It will be us. We'll be on the patio. I believe we'll be starting about 10 o'clock, so that for lunch. Catered lunch. Also, we will be participating at the Claremont Family Day in early October, as well as Constitution events at the Rosebud. And then also in October, we'll have a meeting again in the for an Old Town, I should say. That day will also be the passing of the colors event. The Mormon Battalion site. Facility in Old Town. We're going to meeting in the morning. You can go watch our color guard. Join with other color guards. It's a nice time. So that's what we have coming up. Okay. So in closing, we'll recite the pledge since stand along as it goes today. The peace of God, which passes all understanding, keeping your hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of God, and the blessings of God Almighty be amongst you and remain with you always. Amen. So I will recite our recessional. Until we meet again, let us remember our obligation to our forefathers who gave us our Constitution and Bill of Rights, independent Supreme Court, and a nation of free men and women. Beauregard, please retire the close. Thank you. For the brave troops.
John. Beauregard. March. March. Forward. Beauregard. Call. Right. Retreat. Nicholas.
Guard, salute the colors.
Now, face.
Color guard, retrieve the colors.
On time. March.
About face.
March.
Color guard. Time. Color guard. Forward.
Color guard. All. To your post.
Time. Color guard. Halt. To your post. Just
Okay, so this concludes our meeting. Thank you all for attending. Look forward to seeing you next month. And hopefully we'll have our logistics a little bit better situated. We'll definitely have a screen so that we all see what's going on. Actually, we'll be able to better interact with folks in the run too. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Great job. Thank you.
I got this right. Red. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, Barry, one question. It shows September 17th. Is that a Friday? For the
It
next
should be a
meeting?
Saturday. I think it's September 18th. It's a typo. Sorry
Okay.
about that. But we will be at the House of the USA. Hopefully you can make it to that.
I'm actually going to be busy that day.
Okay. We will record the meeting, so you can
Great.
watch it on YouTube if you care to.
Well, thanks a lot. Well, we will talk later.
Thank you, Mr. Fagley.
Barry, is this history lesson that you gave, is that available on the site or anywhere?
Well, actually, what it comes from is we don't produce, we repost items from history.com out of this day in history.
I see, okay.
So what if you want to join on that distribution list, we can get the email to you whenever they come in. Usually 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 a week.
Yeah,
one a day.
yeah, right.
Yeah, but whenever something like that happens, that's what we're reporting.
Okay.
But if you want to see it again, the next, you have to come to the meeting.
Sure.
No,
No, that's all right.
yeah, but if you want, I can. If you want to copy that.
Okay.
Or in fact, I can do
Hey,
this.
Barry, we need to get you a lav mic.
Yeah, I have one. I didn't realize I was going to need it for this event. I'll have it next time. But thank
Yeah,
you.
you just barely hear you in the noise.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Of course, if you sit there for the meeting, you're fine. Thanks.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you very much. We enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming. Oh, good. Sure. Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
I think I have your email address. You want me to just shoot you one?
It's a pleasure to meet you, and like I said, formally announce you and get your pictures taken.
Very good, Arnie.
That sounds good. Like I
And
said.
welcome to your family. Family's welcome at any time.
I'll see you in October.
Okay, yeah, that's right, you're gonna be gone.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Yes, please.